On January 8th, 2017, I was in a small little rear end accident on the highway when I was going to meet my aunt and my uncle. And I was at a full complete stop on the off ramp, and then all of a sudden a car jammed me from behind. And I had started to have some back pain and stuff like that. And then the actual weakness and numbness didn't start happening until exactly a month later on February 8th. And then all of a sudden I was doing one of my stretches for the physical therapy for my back, and then my leg got tingly, and then it just went numb. Couldn't walk, couldn't stand on it or anything at all. Oh, it was horrible. I couldn't even stand up. The only way I could stand up is if I had someone to hold on to while I transitioned into a wheelchair or my electric scooter. I went to an emergency room near my house. They ended up admitting me, and then they discharged me less than 24 hours later because they had no idea what was happening. And then a couple days later, it seemed to be getting worse. I couldn't put any weight whatsoever on. I was falling even as soon as I stood up. So then that brought me to another emergency room, which led to me being in a hospital for about 5 days. They also discharged me not having a good idea of what's going on. So then me and my dad were really frustrated. I was really uncomfortable, and I was just like, this isn't how I want to live my life. I want to get better. So we came to Mass General.
She was able to see a neurology consultant while with us in the emergency room, and they suspected functional weakness, which is a kind of functional neurologic disorder. And then she was referred to my clinic shortly thereafter. We were fortunate enough to see her about 3 weeks after she was in the emergency room, and that's really when Maggie's work with us in clinic began.
He said there's one certain test that is a very good representation of whether you have this disorder or not. And we did the test, and it seemed, I had no idea what was really going on, but according to him, and I had full faith in him at that point, that it was truly what I had.
So functional neurologic disorder is a very common neurologic symptom. It has been recognized by leaders in the field dating back to Charcot in the late 1800s. It goes by lots of different names, including conversion disorder or a very old term called hysteria. But functional neurologic disorder is the new term, one that we use in clinic. And these are patients who present with a variety of sensory or motor complaints, including weakness, tremors, gait trouble, convulsions or seizure-like events. And yet they're not explained by traditional neurologic disorders. So it's a condition that lives right in between neurology and psychiatry. So our approach in the Functional Neurologic Disorders Clinic is one that emphasizes an interdisciplinary approach. We also emphasize an important role for the neurologic exam. This is critical to making the diagnosis of functional neurologic disorder. So the shift in the field is one where we're looking for positive signs on exam. For example, of collapsing give-way weakness, or of a Hoover sign. And the Hoover sign in particular is a sign that I was able to appreciate on Maggie's physical exam when she presented to us. This positive sign allows us to make the diagnosis of functional weakness, which is a kind of functional neurologic disorder. And once I am confident that the exam and the clinical history are consistent with a functional neurologic disorder, we spend time discussing the diagnosis. Treatment begins with delivery of the diagnosis, and this is something that our clinic here at Mass General very much emphasizes. So in Maggie's case, we spent 10 to 15 minutes using educational resources from neurosymptoms.org, for example, having Maggie receive printouts, and discussing that functional weakness is common, real. This is not something that she's making up or doing to herself, and yet this is very treatable. And it's not as though simple anxiety is causing her inability to move her leg. So this is language that we use very transparently in the clinic, and we emphasize naming the condition, functional neurologic disorder and functional weakness in particular in Maggie's case. So with physical symptoms, one of the key areas of treatment is physical therapy. And this is something that we excel in at the Massachusetts General with our colleagues in physical therapy, in particular Julie Mello. So physical symptoms require physical treatment, and we emphasize that up front.
Working with Maggie was an awesome experience. I kind of got an impression day one that not only would our personalities work well together, but that she would really be engaged in therapy and be someone who was motivated and had kind of all the right things to move the process forward. So I knew early on that it was going to be a good working PT relationship, and it really was unbelievable. I mean, she worked incredibly hard. She listened to everything I asked her to do. She came up with ideas. She engaged well with not only me, but our PT aides. She was really just a joy, and she truly did embrace the process. She didn't have any negative attitude around it. She wasn't angry. She was just ready to kind of move forward and start working on the next steps given her diagnosis.
She made me feel like this was not going to be permanent and gave me solid hope every single time I was at physical therapy that it was going to be okay and that I'm going to get back to my cosmetology program. I'm going to get back to work. This is just a temporary roadblock, but not the end. My first day I was at physical therapy, I was able to stand for about 45 seconds before thought I was going to fall over or something. And then the next time I went in, I was able to stand for 2 minutes. And then after 2 minutes, I was able to stand for 45 minutes. So the thing with this disorder is with progress, it happens very rapidly, as long as you keep your mind positive and that you stay focused on what you want to accomplish.
Probably most importantly was learning that she had something that we recognized and that we had confidence in, that functional neurologic disorder was treatable.
I have gone back this couple weeks ago to my cosmetology program. I've gone back to work. It's very, very exciting to be back doing what I wanted to do, what I love to do. And if anything, I have definitely more of an appreciation for all of that than I probably ever did before.